Hi, I'm Elliot Fishman, and welcome to our latest and greatest Facebook Live. And Hannah drew this picture of me in the back there, so look at that. I got my own picture. Ask me anything. I guess you can't see that part about the ask me anything, so let me just bend this up a little bit. But if you see, there it is. Ask me anything. Okay, so what I decided to do, we spoke about, we always try to have very timely topics. And then people ask questions, but often I think people are afraid to ask questions, or they ask questions after the talk is over, and then it's impossible to answer them. We could have little things. So just a couple things. So one is, I really can't go through anything without first at least mentioning the coronavirus, which is, I think, has everybody scared. There's no doubt about that. A lot of it we don't know, I think, and I think that's one of the challenges in everything we've always done in radiology or outside of radiology in life in general, is the unknowns that always make you worry. So you will notice on Facebook, last night I posted a series of about 16 slides from the two best articles, one in radiology and one in European radiology, which has the key facts of how CT is used for looking at the coronavirus, the patterns, the fact it's peripheral and ground glass. So you can look at that, and I did post some of the images from the articles. Now, I think radiology has no issue with it. European radiology says that anything related to the coronavirus, I think their Spreger Verlag, in any of their publications, will be open. And I think, obviously, you really would be, it would be a sad day if journals would say you can't share information about a potential pandemic because you don't have a subscription. So I think everything that relates to the coronavirus, just the fact that even the way they publish it, they're publishing it so quickly, peer review is limited, they're having the editors review it, and I agree that's the thing to do not get me wrong, but we need to be able to disseminate the information so that everybody can see it. I hope, including myself, that none of us actually see a case. That would be the best thing possible, but you want to be able to think about it, and if you do see something, to be able to suggest it. That could save a lot of grief for people. So take a look at that. I'm going to ask Lily to maybe post it later. I'll give her the PowerPoint, so we'll have the whole PowerPoint together. And I pulled out the key findings from both articles, and I had some select images. But if you look, starting about 11 o'clock last night, which would be Tuesday night, the 20-something, 25th or something, you'll see all of them. Okay. So let's get started with the questions. So now, ask me anything. Hey, Yasmin Zahuni. So it's Dr. Zahuni's daughter. I know she doesn't want to hear that. Yasmin's a surgeon, and she was out in California, in Berkeley. And I think she's still out there, so she must be doing her fellowship or something. Hi, Yasmin. So I'm just going to, Lily wrote down, many of you had some questions which you could put down in advance. I know one of the challenges with doing CTisus Live on Facebook is that right now it's 11 o'clock in the morning. We usually do it around 12 o'clock, but Hedy Resac, who's the chair at Sloan Kettering, is here giving grand rounds, and I wanted to be at that talk. So we did it a bit earlier, okay? But even if we didn't, I know, remember that 90% of Facebook users, including a lot of our own, are not in the U.S. So if you're in the Middle East, it's 10 hours difference. If you're in Europe, it's 6 hours difference. If you're in Australia, it's 12 hours difference. So many people will be looking at this later on, so we wanted people to ask questions. So I'll try to put some of the questions together. So Kirsten asked me, what's the biggest change in radiology since I started my career? I think everything has changed, right? When I started radiology, I think with the dinosaurs, I think Rankin was working next door to me. We had x-rays, had some fluoro, a little bit of angio, minimal ultrasound, no CT, no MR, no nothing. So really it's the technology. And I think the technology, particularly computer-based technology, has driven everything as we move from film to PACS, as we moved into CT and MR and ultrasound and angiography and PET CT and everything in between. So I think it's the development of technology, and then it's our ability to use the technology for earlier and better diagnosis, the laparoscopic, people would go for surgery where they didn't know what was going on, and then you would do you'd basically do a laparoscopic procedure to look and see what was going on. That'd be barbaric. Okay, so everything, non-invasive imaging. And I see Ed Miller joined. Oh my God, it's a real honor. Dr. Miller was the prior dean of this and CEO of Johns Hopkins Medicine. Hi, Dr. Miller. So that's one thing. Someone asked me about that. I would like to know, what is your opinion about the specialty, radiology, how challenging it has been in terms of requirements and so on. I think radiology has evolved over time. I think the reality is, in my opinion, in general, with most things, is either you're going forward or you're going back. There is no standing still. I think the idea of we're just going to maintain status quo and just kind of hover doesn't really work. I mean, either moving forward or you're moving back. And I think people, as they get more senior in their career, it's a very important thing, because I notice a lot of people get senior in their career and they're just trying to hover. The truth is, when you're hovering, you're probably going to fall down and you're going to go backwards. So really the key is maybe to change your focus, perhaps directions, emphasis, more teaching, more research, more clinical, whatever it is, but you need to be moving forward. And I think that's the thing that's really good about radiology. I think it's good about medicine in general, but radiology, there's always new things coming along. Just the fact I'm talking to you on Facebook Live, Facebook didn't exist 15 years ago or so. The whole internet didn't exist. We started doing vodcasts when Steve Jobs came out with that less than 20 years ago. Now it's routine. We've done thousands and thousands of videos. How education is practiced. My grandson, who is in pre-something or other, is under 4 years old. In school, they don't teach you how to write anymore. There's no more cursive because everything is computers. Now you need to know how to sign off on things, which he knows how to do already. He also knows how to order pizza and play music. But it's a changing world. I think that becomes very, very critical. What inspired me to pursue radiology? I'm curious what you think would be the best course of action when preparing for the long journey of medical school in radiology. I think the thing is perhaps not to think of it as a long journey. I think that someone made the point way back when that the longest journey starts with a single step. I always wanted to be a physician. Not that I knew any better. I didn't even know what a physician was. I thought, I watched it on TV. I thought, man, you have a good time. Everyone had a really good social life. Then I went to medical school and found out it was just the opposite. I wanted to be a GP because that's who I copied from. But at the end of the day, the two people I work with, Archie Reisenberg, who was up in Liberty, New York, may he rest in peace, and J.J. Platt, who was in Essex, Maryland. I work with both of them locally and at a distance. And both of them said, if I could do it all over again, I'd be a radiologist. I remember they were GPs who took radiology films in their office, particularly chest x-rays. I remember helping dip it into the timer, into the fluid. I mean, that was really a wet read in those days. And because they said that, and I had great respect for them, I took a elective in radiology, and it seemed that everybody in radiology was very happy. I think the reason they were happy is there wasn't that much work to do, and they get done by 3 o'clock, and no wonder they were happy. They were showing each other cases. It seemed like a really good deal. Now, of course, we work much harder than that. But I think, you need to take it a step at a time. I think if you consider saying, oh, my God, it's 4 years of medical school and then an internship and then 5 years fellowship residency, that's 10 years. It's like, oh, my God, what am I thinking? I think that's kind of a challenge. I think it's just taking things step at a time. And I think it is it's a challenge. Going into medicine is a challenge because you do put off a lot of things, including financial things, including the time spent. It's really a challenge, but I think at the end it's worth the challenge. But you need to think about it. What motivates you to do all the things you do in radiology? What is the thing that has the biggest impact in your life? Do you have any other interests other than radiology? Besides my grandchildren, I have a lot of interests, computers, education. I think everything kind of connects. I think that, again, going back to the point is you got to keep moving forward and not sort of go backwards. So we put a lot of effort into developing education. Remember, we did the education stuff when we did VHS tapes. It was with Amersham. We did VHS tapes. We recorded lectures. Then we had CDs. Then we went on to the web. Then we kept moving on beyond the simple web to Facebook and everything else we currently do. I think what motivates me is the ability to try to keep challenged and keep pushing forward. I think we're never satisfied with what we're doing, and that's not in a bad way, because people who are never satisfied, maybe they're miserable. I think we're very happy with what we're doing, but we know we can do better, and we'd like to see what it is we can do. We're not interested in copying. We're not in a race with someone else. We really measure what we do against ourselves and how good we are and what it is that we can do. And we meet weekly, daily, hourly, talking about things, where we can go, what CTisus should do, for example, what we can do with Facebook. Lily started the Instagram. We have 67,000 people on Instagram. We have LinkedIn. We have Pinterest. We have big following now on Twitter. So we look at everything we can do and continually think about what is it we should be doing and what is it that we might be able to do. I think it's a challenge that really does well. It's a friend of mine, Bob Drebin, who I worked with at Pixar many, many years ago, and Bob was the first author in the volume rendering article was patented. And Bob's at Apple, one of the chip designers, the lead chip designer, I think, or something to that effect. And Bob made the point at Apple a couple of years ago that they, even though it's a $1 trillion company, they work like it's a startup. That they're working that, oh my God, if we don't succeed, we're going to be out of business. And obviously that's kind of an exaggeration, but really it's a brilliant way of thinking, because it's very easy not to be hungry. I think when you're a junior, you're hungry, well, you should be hungry, about doing and moving and growing and taking the opportunity. So I think I'm trying not to change that. I'm trying to, whether we're doing AI with Bert Vogelstein and Ken Kinsler and Alan Yulee and Linda Chu and the guys looking at pancreatic cancer, or the stuff with cinematic rendering, and now we're using the HoloLens. We're starting to do that to be able to look at visualizations, whether it's working with our friends in surgery or pathology or medicine or oncology. Again, constantly trying to evolve how can we do things better for our patients, and at the same time evolve ourselves, whether it's training people. I mean, an important thing in academics or in life is mentoring and helping people develop. So we take great pride, or I surely take great pride in having people succeed. I think that, you really I think you look better if the other people do better. I think that's I learned that a long time ago, that it's not just about you. You want many people around you to succeed, and I think that becomes a very important part of what we do. Then in terms of interests, I used to plan things, but I don't do that anymore. I used to play basketball. I haven't done that in a while because no one else was playing. I do go to concerts, though there hasn't been a good concert in a while, and hoping Adele will be coming back soon, and Taylor Swift. I don't like the stadium concerts, and I missed the Eagles last weekend because we had our Florida course. The Eagles were in New York City, but hopefully I'll see Clapton when he comes in May. So the concerts thing keeps me interested in music and listening to Sirius Radio, going back and all the things you remember, sort of that soundtrack of your life, as people like to say. And so we just keep going. Someone said, what do you do next? Well, you just keep going and thinking where you're at, what can you do better, and then you pay attention to the world. I think it's important to realize that medicine is not the world, radiology is not the world. There's a world, the Jensen Wangs and the Steve Jobs and all those people. You got to look at what they do, because what they do can impact what you do, and you need to take advantage of what they're doing to really improve what you're doing. So I think it's the open mind, looking beyond medicine, looking beyond radiology, and then bringing stuff back into medicine and into radiology. We're not, there's no field that has all the information. I think, so much of what goes on, you go to a meeting like CES, Computer Electronics Show, you see what people are doing, it makes you think differently, okay? And that all becomes very, very important. So, now, I'll just also say I'm still answering questions, but if you have a question, this is probably a good time to ask, because we're going to run out of time soon. People ask me to explain a little bit of will we survive AI. I think we will. I think it's going to change everything. I think some things, like breast mammography, computers will be doing it like pap smears, and I think chest x-rays. So some things where we don't make any money, that's very time intensive, that'll be a great thing. I think we'll still be reading CTs, though AI will help us, whether it's triaging the cases on a priority basis, or helping make sure we don't miss pancreatic cancer, for example, or staging renal cancer. I think we're going to be sitting there with much more information. Radiology is going to have to become more involved in patient care. The radiomics, not just saying there's a pancreatic mass, We're saying based on radiomics, here's the prediction of patient survival, here's the prediction of what drug therapy will work. That will become very important. So we will survive AI. I think if you don't do AI, you're not going to survive. So that part is true as well. But it's going to be a reshuffling of radiology. It's going to be a reshuffling of pathology and medicine and oncology and everything and anything you're doing. I'd like to know what's your opinion about pregnant patients. So again, obviously a pregnant patient with fever, you would like to do ultrasound first. Some places can do MR, CT, the dose, you can have a low dose, give positive contrast, give IV, wait long enough, you can make the diagnosis. The key thing is the doses are low, but you want to make sure you get the answer. So we'll do other things before. And then do that. Let's see what else. Let me see, where is it here? I'm just trying not to. Can you explain to me about resits? Well, resits that's how we develop and measure tumor volume. So there's a resit 2 now. Basically, I can give you some references, but the key thing is when you want to look at patients who get chemotherapy, for example, or any form of therapy, you want to see, are they responding? And for radiologists to say just big or smaller, that's not really what it is. RECIST criteria are criteria for looking at size changes, 20%, for example, how you measure, how you do reproducibility. And also, of course, there's challenges because now with immunotherapy, sometimes tumors become necrotic and become larger earlier, which would make it seem like the tumor is growing, but that's the response, and only then it shrinks. So we need to have these new RECIST criteria, and people are looking at that. So I think one of the things in medicine, I mentioned Hedy Resac is here today. She's going to speak about precision medicine, precision radiology. So simply saying there's a mass present, that's okay, but that's not going to be what you're going to get paid for in the future. The ability to quantify, the ability to expand the information is going to be very critical. I think that's very, very important. I see Lydiana's online. Lydiana's in Palo Alto. Hi, Lydiana. Another question, I was wondering what cases have stuck with you as shocking, extremely interesting. I think, like many people, the cases that stick with you the most are the cases you missed, where you didn't see something or you saw something and it ended up being something else. So I think I remember a lot of cases. It's really the really cool ones, particularly in 3D, where you didn't see something and then you do the 3D, like a vasculitis, and you see all the information. So I think to me the cases where potentially we miss things or we didn't appreciate things and now we do, so we change how we think and how we write. So I think all of us learn more from error, though we try not to make any errors, but you want to learn from other people's mistakes. Maybe that's a way of thinking about it. You also need to realize the importance of quality. Sydney Wolf was here, spoke about that she's a chef and she owns a restaurant. She's responsible from the time you make your reservation, you arrive, till you leave. That she can't say, well, the food was late, or the table was the place was too crowded or too noisy, or the parking was no good. She's responsible for everything. And I think in radiology, we also need to remember that you can be the best CT reader, the best MR reader, best ultrasound reader, but if the patients are unhappy with the techs, unhappy with the front desk, unhappy with parking, unhappy with finding radiology, you're going to get very bad reviews. And you as a radiologist, you can't say, well, I'm Elliot Fishman, I read the damn films. I can't be responsible for everything else. Unfortunately, you're held responsible. And the reality is you just need to make certain that you are looking at every piece. We had Brian King here last week from Marriott. He says there's 283 steps from the time someone tries to make a reservation at a Marriott hotel till they leave the hotel and pay their bill. 283 distinct steps that you can screw up 283 times, and they work on all 283 things to make sure each of them are perfect. That's what I call attention to detail. That's breaking down the process, not saying you check in, I give you the key, you check out, I take the key, and oh yes, I got your credit card and now I charge you, and whatever happened in between didn't matter, hopefully it was okay. No. You need to make sure 283 steps are okay. When you break it down and you're looking at each piece of the puzzle, that's when you're very successful. successful companies, successful people don't assume. They look at everything very carefully, and I think that maybe is a good lesson for all of us. And Brian King just gave a wonderful, wonderful talk about that. You need to pay attention to everything. You can't get around anything. So it looks like I've used up 20 minutes, and I'm not getting any questions, and I got most of these questions done. There are a few more. But if people have any more questions, just put them down. We'll answer them, and maybe we'll do this again another time. Again, as I mentioned, when you finish this, if you want to look a little bit about the coronavirus, just go to CTisus, go to the Facebook page, and we have everything there. And we will post it later today as one long PowerPoint rather than, I think there must have been like 15 different postings over a very short period of time. So with that, have a great day, and see you all next week. Bye-bye.